All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well on this Monday, start of a new week, and we've got some more predictions. Got another set of predictions to make in this video. We're going to be doing rushers or runners, however you want to quantify it. We're talking about rushing yards. So mostly we're going to be talking about running backs. But there's a little bit more going on here as well. Running backs are not the only players in the NFL that gain rushing yards, of course. So we're going to take a look at this set of players, and I've got some number predictions for each of them. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. And when thinking about the Seahawks running game this year, just to kind of get you guys to where my mindset is about this team and this rushing attack in general, last year, the Seahawks ran the ball a lot, but they did not really run the ball well. And they had two very good running backs. Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet were both top 5 running backs in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. Walker and Charbonnet were studs, according to those guys. And generally speaking, I think they did just about everything they could individually. There were a couple maybe not so good games here and there, but the reasons why the team did not run the ball well until later in the season, mainly two things. The offensive line hadn't come together yet, and opposing defenses stacked the box consistently because they weren't afraid of our receivers down the field. So when we got to the later portion of the season, when we got to those games in the last month of the regular season and then January and February, the team started to run the ball a lot better, mostly because those two things went away. The offensive line built continuity, and Rashid Shaheed gave the opposing defenses something to be afraid of. Those two things are still in play for this year. The offensive line is likely to return 5 out of 5 starters, and the one starter they may not return is Anthony Bradford, who is relatively replaceable, and Shaheed is back. However, the question mark, the hard part is we've lost that really strong 1-2 at running back. We still have Charbonnet, but he's coming off a major injury. We don't know what state he's going to be in. We don't know exactly when he's going to get back. And Walker's obviously in Kansas City. So we've kind of swapped out one set of issues for another. I think this is probably better. So just to kind of frame things before we get into the numbers here, I think we'll run the ball a little bit better. I suspect we'll run the ball a little bit less because we have more receiver talent this year. And also, I think that they'll really want to not overload guys like Jadarian Price with a bunch of carries. They're going to want to be careful. So I think we'll run the ball less, but I think we'll run the ball a little bit more effectively because the offensive line and the wide receivers are going to provide a bigger threat. So let's start with Jadarian Price here. I think he is going to be the lead runner on this team by a pretty good margin. I have him getting 204 carries, which is a good amount for a rookie, over 10 a game. Of course, this is assuming that he stays healthy. So you're coming out to about 12 rushes a game. And then when you combine that with what he does as a receiver, which won't be a ton, but it'll be something, you've got close to 15 touches a game, which I think is where you want to be. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So 204 carries. Yards, I'm going to go with 931. I don't think he gets to 1,000. It'll be a good season. It'll be nice, but I don't think that he's immediately going to hit the ground running and be the player that he's going to be in future seasons. I don't think that he's going to crescendo as a rookie. I think that he'll benefit from playing behind a good offensive line and in an offense that is already operating at a pretty high level, but I don't think he'll get to 1,000. Yards per carry on this, by the way, would be about 4.56, so over 4.5. That's strong for a rookie. That's close to what Walker had last year. That's way better than what Charbonnet had last year. So we're winning if we get that from Price. And then touchdowns, I have 7. Not a ton, but a healthy amount. And that's that. Okay, next up we got George Holani. I think he will be the third down back until Charbonnet gets back, and he may continue to play a role when Charbonnet gets back. I don't know. But I think that Holani is mostly going to be a third down back, which means he's going to be doing blocking and receiving. I don't think he's going to get a lot of handoffs. I don't think he's going to get a lot of carries. I don't think that's his game. So I went with 65. It's not going to be nothing, of course. You're going to have to give him the ball on the ground occasionally, but I think it's going to be a pretty muted part of the offense. And yards, I went with 254. I don't think this is a part of his game that is particularly good by the NFL standard. I think that you give him carries in the NFL, he's just going to grind out about 3.9 to 4.1 yards per carry. So I went with 3.9. Obviously not super flattering, but again, this is not really his game. Holani to me is a third down back. And when Charbonnet gets back, once he's at 100%, Holani may not play a ton because I feel like at that point, you're not really getting anything out of him that you're not getting out of a healthy Charbonnet. I'm going to give Holani 1 touchdown, though. Again, I think that most of his damage with the ball in his hands will probably be done through the air as a receiver, but we'll give him 1 rushing touchdown. All right, so that's Holani. Charbonnet, again, a lot of mystery here. We don't know when he's going to actually get back. We don't know what state he'll be in when he gets back. So I'm going to do the best I can here. I went with 78 carries. So I think once he gets back, you're going to see him get the ball a decent amount. But again, generally speaking, I know last year was kind of an exception, but he's been more of a third down back. He's been a notable blocker, and he's been a good receiver. I know last year he was kind of used as a goal line back, but this year I think he can get back to some of that third down stuff a little bit more. 335 yards, so that comes out to a 4.3 yard per carry average, which, it's better than he was last year. And then I gave him the 4 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to be some goal line monster this year the way he was last year. 1, because of the injury. 2, because I think the offense is going to be a little bit different. And unlike Walker last year, who got most of his touchdowns sniped, Price, I think, is going to do a little bit better in that area as well. So just kind of trying to average everything out. So that's what I got for Charbonnet. That one's really tough, though. That one could go a couple different ways really violently. It's hard to predict. I think that when you're talking about Charbonnet, you have to proceed with caution, and you have to acknowledge that it's going to be really hard for us to know until we actually get a real meaningful timeline of when he'll be on the field. So I did my best, but understand that there's a lot we don't know. For all we know, he'll be back by week 3. For all we know, he won't be back until week 16. Those are obviously 2 extremes. I doubt either one is actually the case. Emanuel Wilson, though, 71 carries here. Some people aren't sure if he's going to make the team. I'm pretty sure he's going to make the team at first. And I think that especially early on, he could end up doing some notable stuff as kind of like kind of sort of the power back, especially with Charbonnet out for a while. 311 yards. That is 4.38 yards a carry, so call it 4.4 basically. To me, Emanuel Wilson, he showed in Green Bay that he can be a pretty efficient and effective ball carrier. He, I think in this kind of role can actually do quite well. And I think that he will have a positive impact on this team when all is said and done. I gave him a couple rushing touchdowns, so he'll provide a little bit in that area as well. I think that He may not be really a relevant part of this team after we get Charbonnet back, but before then, I think we're going to hear from him, especially because a lot of the games that Wilson's likely to impact earlier in the season, kind of weaker opponents where we might be running the ball more because hopefully we have a big lead at the end of the game. Again, nothing's guaranteed, but when we get to the really hard part of the schedule later in the year, Wilson might be kind of on ice. Okay, Rashid Shaheed, we all know what he does on those jet sweeps and end arounds. That's a part of this offense that was really good last year for the most part. I got 13 rushes for him, 103 yards. Not all of them are going to break through, but a good chunk of them are. That's almost 8 yards a carry. You're probably going to bust a couple of 30-plus yarders. That's something that he has in his bag. No touchdowns here or anything like that, but I think that Shaheed is going to be a very positive part of this rushing attack with the stuff he does as a jet sweep guy. Sam Darnold, it's pretty clear that in this offense, we don't want him to do a lot of running. So I looked at last year's numbers and kind of parsed them out along the lines of what I think this offense will be this year. Went with 32 carries, so about 2 a game. Some of them are going to be the QB sneaks, although I don't know how many QB sneaks he'll do because of Barner. But there's going to be some scrambles. There's going to be the occasional just take off and pick up a couple yards. So I went with 101 yards, 3.16 yards per carry. You know, some of them are just going to be kind of like get back to the line of scrimmage because the pressure's getting home stuff. You guys know how it goes. I did give him 1 touchdown, though. I think that, I believe that last year he did not have any rushing touchdowns. I say this year he finds his way back to the end zone. Yeah, we know he can do it. He's got a little bit of mobility. And I think that in a different offense, he could have a lot more than this, but we don't want him to run that much. I think it's pretty clear that we want him to be a guy who doesn't utilize that much. Just not the way this offense works. Next up is Jalen Milroe, and this one's tough because I could definitely see him not playing this year. Because having 3 active quarterbacks on your roster is kind of it's a price. It's a little bit of an expensive thing, and you have to declare ahead of time if he's going to be active or not. So he may be inactive for every game we play if our quarterbacks stay healthy. But I'll go ahead and say 6 carries. I'm going to say he gets into garbage time of a game at some point. 31 yards, 5.17 yards per. No touchdowns. Not going to go crazy there. But I don't know. I feel like he'll get on the field at some point. Maybe. The thing is, it's very unlikely we have a game where we can just rest starters. Like, we're not going to get to week 18 and have everything locked up, probably. That would be a great Jalen Milroe opportunity. But more than likely, I think there's going to be a game at some point where we have him active and we pull out a couple of packages and see if things have improved from last year, because last year the Milroe package was kind of a mess. Final guy is going to be AJ Barner, and we all know about the barnyard. So 12 barnyards, 15 yards. Not going to be anything crazy, but he's going to be effective. 1.25 yards per. Also going to give him 1 touchdown. So the barnyard will continue to be an effective, good play and will help us win. And we got to take advantage of it while it's here, because there will come a day where I believe it's not going to be legal anymore, and we are one of the teams that uses it very well. So you add all this up. Let me go ahead and just clear this out here. Yeah, you've got 481 total rushes, 2,081 yards. That's a 4.33 yard per carry average, and 16 total touchdowns. So that's a little bit less volume than last year. The yardage is about the same. It's a tiny bit more. And the yard per carry goes up by about almost a third of a yard. So last year's rushing attack was, like I said, high volume but low efficiency. I think we'll lose a little bit of volume this year, but the efficiency goes up a little bit. And I that's obviously a good thing. I think that's probably a positive thing, especially if I'm right about the passing attack and it's a little bit more explosive. And well, I don't want to say explosive because it was very explosive last year, but it's a little bit more, I should say, overall effective, because it was effective last year. I think it should be more effective this year because of the full season of Shaheed. So therefore, I think this is all a good thing. And obviously, with this kind of a spread, nobody's getting overworked. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. Those are my predictions for the runners.